Last night's presidential debate, for a lot of people, it was very tough to watch. I keep hearing words like painful, train wreck, epic fail, with voters facing a stark choice in November. Joining us to talk about how the campaigns move forward from here are CBS News political contributor and chief communication officer for Move On, that's Joel Payne, and the former national communications director for the Republican National Committee, Doug Heye. Good morning to you both. This is your wheelhouse, guys. You know exactly what we saw last night and how people are translating it. But we're having a conversation like if this was a family member and you watch this, you would go to Dad and say, Dad, we need to take the keys away from you now. Now is the time. What do you say, Joel, about how President Biden can and should move forward from here? Can he recover from this?
Well, typically the way you would fix a moment like last night where he wasn't his best is more of him. You would expose him more.
That's
typically, if you wanted to ease people's concerns, I think therein lies the challenge, right? More of him. Was that, as John said earlier, was that closer to his best day or to his worst day? I do think you can perform the job of the president and not necessarily perform the job of a candidate well. Those things don't necessarily overlap like a Venn diagram, and I think we saw he had some challenges performing as a candidate last night.
And for President Trump, Doug, I mean, listen, many people say he didn't have a good night either because most of the things he said were not true. At one point when he said, I offered the 10,000 troops to Nancy Pelosi, I said to Ed O'Keefe, I don't recall him doing that. When did that happen? He goes, it didn't.
This is why Democrats feel so upset by this is because there were softballs, politically speaking, that a candidate who was with it and fully present could knock out of the park, and the swings weren't coming. That seemed to be what the takeaway was.
Yeah, if you're the Trump campaign, words and the split screen is everything you wanted last night. Donald Trump had the debate that he wanted to. He was on offense, and on basically every issue, Joe Biden was on defense. And when he wasn't talking and we saw the split screen, he didn't look like he was all there. And I'll tell you, I'm such a Frank Sinatra fan that I hosted an hour on Seriously Sinatra a couple weeks ago. And I thought last night of seeing Frank Sinatra at the end of his career. 1 minute, Come Fly With Me is going very well. Yeah. And a few minutes later, he can't remember the words to My Way. And to Joel's point, this is the problem of you fix this with more of him. Joe Biden's going to have more nights like this, more days like this than fewer because he's at an age where he ages faster, and he's still in a job that ages you faster as well.
But, Doug, do you call it a good night for Donald Trump, even though most of the time he was not telling the truth?
And, Doug, you said that the fact that he wasn't telling the truth doesn't really matter.
It's all baked in with Donald Trump. But we know this, and maybe that's unfortunate. I'd agree that it's unfortunate. But Donald Trump is a ball of energy. Joe Biden last night was not a ball of energy. And just judging by text messages and emails I was receiving from Republicans and from Democrats, great night for Donald Trump, despite the things that you're talking about. Terrible, existentially bad night for Joe Biden.
The fact, Gayle, that your first question to me was about Joe Biden, that's the problem, right?
Why?
Donald Trump lied, obfuscated, did a lot of harm and put forward a lot of misinformation. And the fact that as a Democrat, I can't lead with that, right? That's difficult for me to go and offensively lead with because the performance of the president is kind of what's on the matinee after last night.
Were you surprised at his performance last night?
Of President Biden's performance? I think I was surprised to the extent that he really struggled in this format. But look, it's not uncommon for incumbent presidents to struggle in debate settings like this. Of course, we all know about Barack Obama in 2012. George Bush struggled in some of his debates with John Kerry.
But the difference is with Barack Obama,
the day after that 2012 Romney debate where he was seen as losing the debate, he gave one of the greatest, most stirring performances. He's a competitive guy, and he went out there and crushed it.
And no one questioned, is he up for the job? They said, now that was an off night for Barack Obama, but nobody questioned whether he had the ability to do the job.
The Biden campaign was putting out to reporters, Donald Trump or Joe Biden has a cold. That tells you that they know it wasn't a good night. And by the way, did any of us think that of the two candidates, the one that would say, let's not act like children was Donald Trump?
No, you're right about that.
And that tells you a whole lot in one sentence.
Joel, I don't know how the Democrats move forward here because we've had Democrats on for months and months, and we asked them the age question, you know, are you concerned? Voters are concerned. Tell us what it's like. You're with the president behind closed doors, and they all act like he's doing trigonometry and a Rubik's Cube and spinning a basketball and balancing the budget.
All at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that now. So what can they possibly say?
Well, again, I think now you fix this with showing a counter narrative. Counter-programming, putting him out there. Last night after the debate, he was at the Waffle House in suburban Atlanta. He went to a victory party, showed more vigor, showed more energy. I'd imagine you'll see more of President Biden out on the trail. I imagine reporters will have more access to him, which is something that I know that reporters have been frustrated with, because you fix it with dispelling people's concerns by putting him out there
Yeah,
more.
we have to go, but just real quick, both of you, do you believe there is a chance that President Biden steps down and we have another presidential candidate in the Democratic Party?
I think it would be unwise to rule out anything. I also think it would be unwise to overcorrect for a bad performance last night.
It depends on if any Democrats, elected Democrats, not formers, come out and think of how many times we said, why wouldn't Paul Ryan speak out or this Republican speak out anytime Donald Trump did or said something crazy? Elected Democrats
Those will be the
stand
hints.
up and do that.
That's what we have to pay attention
Have
to.
you ever had a presidential debate where you hear a presidential candidate say, I did not have sex with a porn star? I mean, that alone shows you that this is a
Neither
whole
that nor
different
golf
ballgame.
games.
Yeah.
Or the golf game.
There's a few things we heard last
We're
night.
both
that
pro
were
Waffle
warriors.
House, by the way.
Yeah.
Right
I am
about that.
very
Big fan of
Joel
Waffle House.
Payne, Doug Heye, we
Exactly.
appreciate you. Thank you so much.